this is Stephanie with Sew Make It. Today I'm working on an adjustable strap. I do like to lay my fabric out, kind of smooth it out as best I can, fold it in half and in half again, line everything up on the cutting mat, making sure that that bottom fold lines up along the line on the cutting mat. Once I have everything lined up, I'll just smooth it out. And then take a quick little cut along the edge to make sure that I have a straight edge to start the strap. When I cut the strap, I do cut 3 inches wide by width of fabric. I like to have a little bit of a longer strap, so I do cut 2 3-inch strips by width of fabric.
I use the same method regardless if I'm making a long crossbody strap that needs to be a little bit longer, or if I'm just making handles for a tote bag. I use the same process. While I've got my cutting mat out here, for my pellon, I will do the same thing. I'll go ahead and fold it in half so that I don't have to cut a huge length. I line it up across the bottom so that it's along the straight edge. And then I'll go and cut myself some 1-inch strips of the pellon. Again, what I use is the Pellon 809. It gives the strap a lot of body, so it doesn't feel like that you just have your little strip of cotton there. So I'll cut some 1-inch strips. 1-inch strips will fit nicely inside the folds that we're going to use to make the strap.
So now we have the 2 3-inch strips of fabric. I'm going to take them and put them together, right sides together. This particular fabric, it doesn't really matter. I do like to pin them.
And if you wanted to mark it, you can use some chalk or another marking tool. Now that we are ready to make the strap a little bit longer, we'll go ahead and put the fabric in the machine, put the presser foot down, line the needle up where it's going to hit right along the line that we've marked. Go ahead and start sewing. So do back stitch there. Go ahead and sew to that corner and back stitch. And go ahead and remove your pin. I pinned it up out of the way so I didn't have to worry with it when I was sewing. So now just trim your thread. You're going to have something that looks like this. One continuous piece of fabric. So where I didn't trim it before, I will trim it now. Go ahead and trim off the little corners there. Just be careful to not cut your stitching. And then when you trim it here, you'll have a little dog ear that you'll just clip. It's going to be tucked in under, so when we do the ironing later, I'll just clip that off. So now you'll have that one continuous strip of fabric to make a longer strap. Okay, so now that we made it to the ironing board, the first thing that you're going to that you're going to want to do is go ahead and open that seam and press it open. And then you're going to find the end of the strip. And you're going to take the end and fold it to where the raw edge meets the raw edge. You're going to do that all the way down the length of the strip. Just press it down, slide it, fold, press. I'm going to slide some more, get it folded down, kind of running my thumb down what I think is the center and just making sure that the edges meet. This is going to give us a good starting point for our strap. So right here is where we had the, we joined the strap together. It's pretty flat right there because we opened up that seam. So it's not going to be a lot of bulk in the strap when you attach it to your bag. So you just keep on going. Again, this is how I make all my straps, whether it be an adjustable strap or a strap for like a tote bag. I'll just determine the length that I need based on what I'm making. Alright. Once we have that done, here comes the fun part. This is a little more tedious, but it's very important when you're making a strap if you want it to have any kind of body. I just go ahead and open up that seam where I've pressed, and you can see the crease here. I'm going to go ahead and get my little clips out so I have some of them just laid to the side. That's kind of my catch-all. I need to be better. And then we cut the 1-inch strips of the Pellon 809. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's a shiny side and a dull side. The shiny side is where the glue is. You want that next to your fabric. This is fusible interfacing. I have made some straps with just a sew-in interfacing. You can do it. You're sewing down both sides, so you're going to catch that interfacing. But I do prefer the fusible. So what I do, because I have that nice straight edge where I did the 1-inch cuts earlier, I'm just going to put that down, the edge against the crease that we made in the center, and I'm going to fold one side over. So my strap is going to be 1 inch wide when we finish. So I start by just folding one side, making sure that my interfacing is lined up against the crease that we ironed for the halfway point. And then I fold the raw edge in. And I usually just do this one section at a time. You can go down the whole length of the strap if you'd like. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not the way I do it. So I'll press to the end of that interfacing there, because again, I was using scraps. If you have a continuous piece, that's fantastic. I prefer to do it in smaller sections, but that's just me. Then I'm going to go back to the end. This still has a selvage on it, but I'll cut it off later. And then I'm going to fold on the crease that we made to fold in half. I'm just going to kind of tuck that raw edge under, fold, and have it meet the edge that we just pressed down. And you'll do that all the way down. Sometimes you just have to work with the fabric a little bit to get it to meet. When I have a little section done, I'll just take a couple of clips. It's pretty hot too, but I'll just take a couple of clips as I go to hold it in place. And then we're going to sew it together later. And I just kind of pick up where I left off, folding from the center fold, tucking that raw edge under, and meeting with the edge that we pressed earlier. Get a nice crease. Set it down. And you just continue all the way down the length until you get your desired length. If you don't want the full 2 widths of fabric, you can definitely stop at whatever length you want. Just going to go ahead and put a couple more clips in. You can see it's pretty well lined up. Makes it super easy to sew later. Tip with the clips. They have a curved side and a flat side. If you keep your flat side down, they're really easy to kind of slide off as you're sewing. I occasionally get one in there wrong and have to kind of slow down a little bit when I'm sewing the things together. But pushing down, need to open up a little more. I got to the end of the interfacing that I already pressed in. I'll go ahead and press this side. Then I'm going to go right with my, again, shiny side down on the fabric, lining it up with that center seam. Once I get this started, I usually can just eyeball it and kind of press it in place as I go. It is easier if you keep the end of the strap on the ironing board so it doesn't pull down. Just kind of pull to the side, make sure it's straight when you're ironing it. You don't want a snaky strap. So here's where I stopped ironing a moment ago. I left a little space so I don't get too much heat on the clips that I've placed over here, because they will melt. Done it. It's not cute. But you just go on down the entire length. Go ahead and put a clip here.
Now that everything is pressed nicely, we're going to go ahead and go to the machine, grab our swivel clasps, the adjustable strap slider. Here you can see the work that we've done. We folded it in half, unfolded it, pressed the interfacing in, and then folded the raw edge over, folded it back at that half point, and then folded the other raw edge over, tucked everything in, and the folded edges meet up.
Okay, so what I like to do is go ahead and start with the side with the folded edge. This one is just that one strip where we folded it in half. So I'll go ahead and place the fabric under the machine. I'll bring my needle down to make sure it's lined up. I just want to make sure that I'm catching that seam or that raw edge, or not, it's not really the folded edge. I want to make sure I'm catching the folded edge. Out of habit, I typically backstitch. Because we're going to be turning this end under when we attach the D-rings, the swivel clasps, it's not super important, so if you don't do it, it's not a big deal. You know, just sew, just making sure that the edges stay together. This is what I meant by putting the flat end down. If the flat end's down, you can just kind of push and bring that clip off as you sew. So if you're doing a bunch of these and you get a little quicker, you flip it off. A little thread there. You see how this is kind of puckering a little bit? That's okay. We're going to take it to the iron later. And when you iron it, it'll look flat. This is very forgiving. As long as you're getting those two edges together, you are good to go. Take it along there. Now, when we get close to the area where we stitched together, you may have to pull the fabric just a little bit, just to make sure that it stays lined up. And you just guide it along. Keep it as straight as you can. When you stop, if you wanted me to stop to adjust anything, just make sure you keep your needle down. That'll keep the strap in place. My clips are going to fall everywhere. So I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way as much as possible. I'm sewing from a weird angle. Starts to look like it's puckering a little too much, just kind of put your needle down and kind of pull it a little bit tight. Again, we'll press it. If you have a little gather there, it's not going to be a big deal. If you have a huge pucker, you might want to pick it out. But if it just looks a little wavy, it's going to be just fine. Oh, and my thread broke. But that's okay. Go ahead and trim it off. If your thread breaks while you're doing this, not a big deal. We'll just go right where it broke. Maybe go up just a couple of stitches. So go ahead and rethread the machine. My machine doesn't really like to stop and start too much. Go ahead and thread it up there. Tuck it in there. We'll find out where we left off. What I'll do is I'll start about 5-6 stitches from where my thread broke, which is right here. So I'll start right here. I'll go ahead and stitch and back stitch just to make sure that doesn't come loose with the wear and tear. It would be super important to back stitch there. Because you don't want that stitching to come loose, and you're not going to re-secure that unless it happens to be at a point that will cut the strap later. Yes, I am a little off there. That's okay because it's likely part of the section that I'm going to trim. See, it's a little bit crooked. No big deal. I'll trim it off and we'll use part of it for something else. So then what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of flip it over around, line the needle up on the edge, and this will be the edge that we folded in half. So make a stitch and back stitch, and this is where you can really go because you don't have to worry about that edge coming apart. It's just the folded edge. You're not meeting anything up, so you can just kind of guide it along. Keep it as straight as you can. And this isn't necessary. I think it looks nice when both edges are stitched. Right along. Oh, yeah, see, I made a boo-boo. So we'll have to go back and fix that. Just go along, so just kind of gathering the fabric. About back stitching there, but I will go back and find that section that apparently I went off just a little bit. Let's see, right here there would be a little opening, so I'm just going to go back and line my needle up. I'm going to just sew over that area again. If you're sewing with contrasting thread, it might make a little bit of a difference there, because you definitely would be able to see the stitches. I'm sewing with black thread on black fabric, so if you look you can see them, but it's not going to stand out. So, again, everything doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, it just needs to be strong. So now, what I'll do is I'm just going to take this to the ironing board, and I'm just going to press this so that that wave goes out of it. So what you're going to do, what you need to do is go ahead and thread it through. There is a top and a bottom. So this would be the bottom where the slider is bent, and this will be the top, so it looks kind of smooth. But I'll slide the fabric through one side, and then I move the little slide thing down and put the end of the fabric through across the slider. So now it looks like that on one side, and then you have the slider showing on the other. You want to take, I usually do about just over 1/2 inch. I fold it under, and then I place the strap, the folded section, I line it up to be even with the side of the strap. What I like to do is sew a box. So let me get in here where you can see. I'll take the clip out. So what I do is start near the edge of the fold. Make sure that the sides are lined up. And I'll start just where that side seam where we top stitched. I'll start right there just to adjust the needle and bring it down. Make sure it's where you want it to be. And I'll just sew slowly across there. when I get to the other edge where I top stitched, I'm just going to put my needle down, lift the foot, bring it around. I'm going to sew maybe about 5-6 stitches that way. Leave the needle down, raise the foot, turn it, and go to the other edge. When it gets close like that, my machine, it's a little thick there. My machine sometimes needs a little bit of help. But the same thing, just put your needle down, raise your foot, and sew. So then I'll go right up to that seam line where or the stitch line where I sewed before. Usually go around it a couple of times. Right up to the edge. Lift the foot, put the needle down, get that strap out of the way. Right up to the last seam line. Do it again. Needle down, foot up, and turn. Keeps your box nice and square. Let's do it again. Sometimes you just got to get that seam out of the way. And then whenever I'm finished, I'll go ahead and backstitch. You can put an X in there if you want. I don't. If it's something that's going to carry something real heavy, it might be a good idea. Typically what I make are just little wallets and purses. So it's not necessary for the types of things that I typically make. You go ahead and trim your threads. And you'll see the strap is secure. You pull on it. Make sure you get that thread off. So you got the little box. Then, to make the adjustable strap, the next step is going to be your swivel clasp. What I typically do is determine how long I want the strap to be. Keep in mind it is adjustable, so there's no right or wrong measurement for this. I just know that I like it to be a little longer than other people. And I'll go ahead and give that a trim. Then you'll just put the swivel clasp on. And well, I just always like to pull it down and through so that I know I don't have it twisted. So now that I have the swivel clasp on, this is going to allow for the strap to be adjustable. We'll attach it to a D-ring or a loop, whatever you decide to use on your bag that you're making. Then you take the other end and feed it through. So you'll take it up, kind of slide that down a little bit, and then take it down through. And you'll pull, and we have the adjustable part of the strap done. Yep. Got a thread there. That must have been where I started and stopped. So this will be this strap, the adjustable portion. It's here, so you can slide to make it longer or shorter. The last step is going to be just to attach the the other swivel clasps. So we just want to make sure that we know which side we're gonna sew on. So this is the top. We want to make sure when we stitch the other swivel clasp in place that we're stitching the folded under portion on the bottom. So we can go right from the adjustable strap slider and just run it along to make sure that it isn't twisted. Yeah, there's our seam where we put the strap together. But we'll just slide it along, make sure that we're keeping the top on the top and we know which side is the bottom. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with the adjustable strap slider to attach the swivel clasp. Some people call these lobster claw clasps, whatever it is you want to call them. They open up so you can attach it to a D-ring or whatever the case may be. So you go ahead and put that on there. So I'm going to do it this. You take, I usually can do half an inch, maybe a little more, a little less. Doesn't have to be exact. The folded under portions on the bottom. Double check myself and make sure. Yeah, so that is the bottom, and that's where I want that folded under portion to be, so that this side looks a little smoother. You're not going to have that big lump on the outside of your project. I don't know, lump's not the right word, but you're not going to have that big fold showing on the outside of your project. It'll be on the inside of the strap when you're carrying it. So I'll start again with the swivel clasp. We're turning under on the bottom of the strap and then folding up. And then what you would like to do, make sure that your edges meet on the fabric. Just throw it under the needle there. Make a few stitches from the side seam to the other side seam. Put your needle down, turn. I like to try to sew as close to that side seam as I can. As long as you repeat this a few times, it's going to be secure. So if you're inside the side seam, it's okay. It just depends on what you like to do. Yeah, I think I went a stitch too far, so let's back up one. And then I'll turn it again. Sew around. And we're going to go ahead and put the needle down and turn. Go over it a few times. Oh, I left my needle up. Put your needle down and turn. It looks like my thread isn't catching. I may need to clean my machine. Let me just back stitch over this and see if it catches. That's another way you can do it. You can just back stitch a couple times and then put your needle down and turn. So it caught. Looks good. Just drop your loose threads. and you're good to go. So that's how you make the adjustable strap.